This podcast is not brought to you by Prime or Full Throttle, formerly known as Blue Demon, but the evangelicals got a hold of it, and now it's True Blue, which is so much better.
But it is brought to you by good old-fashioned water.
Water or coffee? Or is that water with hops and shit in it, and then it's salad? Are you drinking a salad?
No, I'm drinking a vegetable.
Ironically, the drink you're drinking tastes like a salad.
Right.
Mine?
Yeah. Do you not remember the Blue Demon had like the aftertaste of like lettuce?
No, I love that one. That's my favorite one. That's why I'm so fat. I don't go with the low calorie. I'm just like, nah, give me the fully leaded one, bitch. What is going on, everybody? It is episode, what are we on, 8? I think it's episode 8.
7?
Yeah, episode 8 of Bropinions, coming at you from the heartland of the South, hot Atlanta. And just to be short, nobody calls it that down here, so please don't say it from New York either. Welcome, John the Stone. Welcome, Nikki P.
What up, what up?
Hello, everybody.
I'm correct. Does anybody that you know call it hot Atlanta?
No, only people who
Radio
aren't from
DJs.
Exactly. And that got brought up to me
Radio
on Twitter.
DJs.
And I was like, no, we don't call, we just call it Atlanta.
Yeah, no. The only people who call it hot Atlanta are people who have never been or lived in Atlanta.
Yeah. But like nobody says that. So, how was the week, boys? How did we enjoy the divisional round this weekend?
I got some picks wrong, which we'll discuss, but still a good weekend of football. So
Okay, so a normal life for you. What about Nikki P?
I got some picks right. 3 out of 4, not too bad. Cowboys pulled the Cowboys, but
Oh, God. Did y'all
the Giants
see?
pulled the Giants. So
Yeah, but did y'all see what the Cowboys Twitter did to Dak? Sold him out wholeheartedly.
Threw him under multiple buses, not just the
Zero
bus.
chill.
under the team bus.
Yeah, exactly. Under the team bus, he went.
Buried him at the 50-yard line.
Just like Zeke on that last play. Just got
That
absolutely
was
buried.
so funny. Oh my God, he got destroyed. That was hilarious.
Zeke, Dak, and Jimmy Hoffa are actually all buried under the 50-yard line of the Giants Stadium now.
And it's not even like he got a good pass off because the receiver got f***ing destroyed when he caught the ball.
The funniest
that
thing
play.
Funniest thing I saw, there was some meme, and I don't know if you've seen the meme of like Gru from Despicable Me, where he's like in front of the chart, and it was like, we have Zeke play center, and then we throw it to Turpin, and then Turpin, and then it was pretty funny. But yeah, he just got absolutely destroyed on that play, and then
The
Cowboys social media.
The funniest one I saw was it was the coach who had done I don't know if you guys remember that Pat McAfee fake punt where they had him like lined up and the rest of the offensive line on the other side of the field. He had come out and said that while watching that play, in his own brain, he was like, thankfully, there is finally a play that's going to overwrite our disaster. Finally, people are going to talk about something else when it comes to terrible formations.
TikTok was from Impractical Jokers, and they were like, okay, now that you've messed all this up, now put Zeke as center and then throw this play. And then it runs the play and it shows Sal just falling down laughing. Love it. Love it. Mwah. Classic. So that, obviously, Dallas lost in a horrendous loss. And it's not even like the 49ers were scoring all that much. So the defense did, moderately okay. But Dak absolutely sucked that game. So Cowboys lose 19-12 to the 49ers. 49ers move on. Any small observation besides that? Maybe the 49ers going into the next round or anything besides Dak being absolute garbage and then getting boat raced by his own Twitter?
I mean, I will say, and I'm looking at other notes here, and I remember the first thing I wrote was that Dak lost in the game with his picks, which they were costly. And, I said last week that whatever defense played better was who was going to win the game. And ultimately, the turnovers is what I feel like put the 49ers in that position to, get that win. But, I do also agree that it's not completely on Dak. I mean, the team just. I mean, they didn't collapse, but they just didn't show up. They didn't show up to what looked like a playoff game. They didn't look like a playoff team. They looked like a team who was, obviously had some mistakes, some miscues, and I don't know what exactly is going on. I know the Pollard injury didn't help things, but I mean,
God, that was brutal.
Yeah,
that was a rough replay. Ooh.
Broken fibula, right? So I mean, and that really sucks for him going into a contract year. I mean, he's a free agent, so I mean that really is unfortunate for him. It ended up not even being worth anything. So that's just all around a really bad injury.
I would disagree. I think it was worth one thing. He was not the one that got obliterated on the last play.
Well, I think they did that to send a message to Zeke. Here's what your 2.5 yards of carry gets you. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I think the turnovers were costly. I think Dallas has a lot to figure out before they can actually get anywhere close to a championship game. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Who helped that team? What?
I was just going to say, no, I totally agree with that take. This one is hard to point at anybody but Dak. It's hard to say that this was anybody else's fault. He just didn't look like himself. And I feel like the defense deserves a little bit more credit than you gave him. I don't think they look good. I think they look great. I mean, holding a 49ers team with Christian McCaffrey, their tight end, Kittle, Ayuk. I mean, that whole team to only 19 points is a pretty solid effort. It just sucks that they didn't get that match on the offensive side. And then, like you said, for Pollard, that really sucks. That really sucks for him going into what probably would have been his biggest chance to make his biggest NFL contract. Hopefully he rebounds. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully, his career continues the way it's been going. But that definitely sucks for him. Cowboys just did not look that great.
Was that the game where they muffed a punt too? But the Cowboys could have got in, and then Meyer had to kick one. I think San Francisco muffed one of the punts.
Oh yeah.
And they still couldn't
punch. Yeah, they muffed a punt. Yeah. And then
it was like at the 12, and that changes. That right there should have been enough of an emotional thing. And I'm with you on the defense. As bad as Dak was as good as Micah Parsons was. That dude lived in the backfield. Purdy was uncomfortable.
Dude, that play where he hit tossed one of the, I think it was McGlinchey. That dude is a 291-pound grown-ass man that he just tossed to the effortlessly. I mean, that was insane. That dude was a beast.
Taekwondo or something, because he used all that momentum exactly the way he needed to. It's it. Whoop!
Yeah,
so,
that was insane.
49ers take the Cowboys. Let's go on to Bengals.
Well, before we move on, I do want to give a shout out to the 49ers defense and that team. I mean, they were obviously the better team. They won. Purdy did struggle. I mean, he's a rookie in a divisional playoff game. Now he's going to a conference championship game. So I did want to make one point, though, and I want to get your opinions on this because I was a little unsure going into this game, but I think now that he has won his first two playoff games, I think there's no way that the 49ers don't have him as their starter going into next year, even with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance still there. I mean, Jimmy was on a one-year deal anyway. I saw him going somewhere else. So, I mean, really the question is what do they do with Trey Lance? I've already seen people, a lot of rumors about him getting traded for like a, third or fourth round pick, which, if I'm a team that needs a QB, and granted, I mean, we haven't seen hardly anything from Trey Lance other than, he's talented, right? But you haven't seen any true, a lot of game time with him. So, but I mean, if I'm a team that needs a QB, a second day pick for Trey Lance, I'd be willing to spend that because, I mean, I don't think you're going to find maybe one or two QBs better in this draft than he is. So,
I think it's a Carolina thing. I think Houston has the primo draft pick. You've got Stroud, you've got Bryce Young, which could be better, could not be better than Trey Lance, whatever. But I think he definitely gets traded. They're going to roll with Purdy. My thought process is Jimmy G's gone and Trey Lance is gone. I don't think Jimmy G starts next year anywhere. I think he's a backup. But I think that Brady goes to San Francisco, teaches Purdy about a lot. They have similar styles. They have similar body type. It's all up here to transfer all that Brady knowledge into Purdy, and they'll see who they roll with starting day next year. But Trey Lance will not be a 49er next year. But I think they wait until after the draft to trade. I wouldn't.
Nick, you're shaking your head.
There is a less than 0% chance that Tom Brady goes to the 49ers. That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Kyle Shanahan is too smart of a coach. He's not going to take a guy on a one-year deal. And like you said, Jonathan, Purdy's doing everything that they need him to do. I mean, he's not really failing anywhere. I mean, he didn't look perfect against Dallas, but it's like he can get the ball to McCaffrey. He can get the ball to Ayuk. He can get the ball to Kittle. That's all he needs to do. Those guys in open
space. Till
space.
he's on his ass 6 times against the Eagles, and you'll figure out he's messed up.
I mean, yeah, but who isn't going to be on their asses 6 times against the Eagles? We saw the Cowboys torch Tom Brady in that first. Like, they don't want him. They're not going to take Tom Brady. I don't think he has what it takes to be that guy anymore. I think after this season, he's shown that he's starting to feel that age. And I don't think that Kyle Shanahan's going to waste resources tying up Tom Brady. I could see maybe another veteran going like Matt Ryan or something like that, but as a backup, I totally agree with you that Trey Lance I don't think is going to be a 49er next year, but I do see Jimmy G starting in the league. There are just too many teams that need quarterbacks right now, and he's, like we talked about, he's that guy. He'll win you games, or you will win games with him. He's not going to win them for you, but if you've got a good enough defense, he's a decent placeholder. I think there are too many QB needy teams in this league currently for him to not start. But I don't see Brady going to the 49ers at all. I do think Lance to Carolina is a good idea though, because they're talking about getting Sean Payton. So.
Well, and I mean, they've won what they did with the run game. They get a semi-decent passing game because they can run. My God, that team ran like hell the last half of the season. Because I played a couple of their running backs in fantasy, and dear God, did I get destroyed. So, I think Lance to Carolina is a good move. I don't see him going to Indy. I don't see him going to Houston. I just think it's a better fit in Carolina.
Yeah, I would agree. I can see Lance going to Carolina. Carolina, I actually just saw a news report earlier that Kellen Moore is still in Carolina interviewing. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means things didn't work out with Sean Payton or if they want to go a different direction. But Sean Payton and Kellen Moore both going for that job right now. But I could see Lance in Carolina. I agree that Jimmy is a starter. I can see him going to one of these teams that draft, not one of these top QBs, but maybe whatever team drafts like Levis or something, maybe sign Jimmy to a 1-year deal and let Levis, kind of develop for a year before you start him. Kind of a similar situation. I was going to say Tennessee, but Ryan Tannehill was already signed there. So, and actually, I also agree. I don't think Brady goes to the 49ers. I think Brady goes to the Raiders, personally, and I've thought that for a while now. Because he'll reunite with McDaniels. He's got Devontae Adams there. I mean, the Raiders are a good quarterback away from making a Super Bowl run, and I think that's what he wants to do to end his career, in my opinion. So,
or so they seem to think.
So they seem to think, right? I mean, they've got the talent. I mean, you've got Devontae Adams, you got Josh Jacobs, who I know is a free agent, so they'll have to sign him.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing with the Raiders too, right? They have a lot of key offensive guys that are free agents. I mean, you've got Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, I believe are all free agents. So, I mean, you're not going to sign all of them. I saw a report.
He actually left Clemson? Did he leave Clemson? Does that happen?
He's on the Stetson Bennett plan. Yeah.
Yeah. You saved yourself over that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Brady does go to the Raiders, and reunites with McDaniel's there. But yeah, they have a lot of question marks too, just with the people that they need to sign. So anyway, we can move on to the next game. But I just wanted to pose that question to you, gentlemen.
I did see a mock draft where somebody insane took Will Levis second overall.
I did a mock draft where I was drafting as the Bears, and I traded. I'm trying to remember. It was the 101 and like a third round pick because the Bears have two, so it was I think it's pick 64 for Devontae Adams, the 107, and like a fifth round pick. And I don't know if this simulator just automatically accepts all trades, but I was like, how cool would that be? It'll never happen. But and then the Falcons in that mock drafted who was it?
CJ Stroud.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Dear God, please no. Please just stop putting these terrible things in our head. Don't do it.
Yeah, so that won't ever happen. And if the Falcons actually take Stroud, then...
we'll probably have to bounce some quick games. So let's hit Bengals at Bills. Dadgum, Joe Burrow is him. I think he's the second best quarterback in the league. For sure.
That's what I said, man. That's what I said.
Yeah. That's the big debate right now is who's the best QB, especially with Bengals Chiefs coming up. So, and people were saying before that Mahomes and Burrow is the new Brady and Manning. I think they're right. These two guys are awesome, and they lead these teams. And it's going to be a hell of a game, which we'll get into. But I got this one wrong. I thought
the two together could come up with Peyton's forehead, though. Dear God.
Probably not. But I do think that, I got this one wrong. I thought the Bills were going to lock this one down, but they just looked awful. And I think the Bills' biggest problem is that Josh Allen always has to play hero ball in order for them to win. And that's just not something you can sustain, especially in the playoffs. It's good enough to get you there, I suppose. But, even this season, they had games where they just looked out of sync. And, this was just one of those games. You saw the frustration on the sideline with Diggs, who he's tired of losing, and I don't blame him. People were saying that Gabe Davis, it was like with Gabe Davis, it was like a 1A, 1B. I don't think that. I think Gabe Davis is a inconsistent wide receiver 3. So, if they sign, a decent wide receiver, that's another option than Diggs. And honestly, the Bills' biggest thing is, in my opinion, is they need a run game. Singletary, and I like James Cook. He looked good in his rookie year, but they have to find some consistency there. They just need other options besides Josh Allen to win them games. So, but the Bengals look great. I'm excited to see them. They got hot at the right time, and I think they're going to the Super Bowl personally, which we'll talk about later. But yeah,
big take. This Bills resurgence is officially over. It's done. This team, the way it's built, is not going to get to a Super Bowl.
I saw somebody on Twitter was like, "Is the Bills dynasty over?" And I was like, "Did it ever start?"
Did it start? Yeah.
They had the perfect storm. You have the emotion of Hamlin being back. You were at home. It was snowing. You had everything you needed on your side to win that game. And what did they do? They laid an egg. They shit the bed. So, in the history of the Super Bowl, no coach QB combo has ever won after their first 5 years. And this is year 5 of McDermott and Josh Allen. So unless they make big changes, something like that, they're not going to get to a Super Bowl, much less win one. And I'm not saying that they should move on from Josh Allen, but history tells you that the way it's structured right now, they're not going to get there. So I think Josh Allen is a hell of an athlete. He does play hero ball, but when you have the star wideout just blowing up at the QB, multiple defensive guys looking over at offense going, what the hell's going on? What is this? I think you're right on the run game where James Cook could be. I think the cold restricts him because he played at Georgia. They played very much warm ball where it was not, he was running on snow and running here. Catching the ball when it's that cold is much different for him, so that is a learning curve. Singletary is serviceable but not great. There's so many of these that if you couldn't win at home in the snow, which is to your advantage, with possibly the biggest emotion. It was the fucking Bengals where they had to stop the last game. You had everything you needed, and you still screwed it up. So they need to look internally hardcore because they are not on the same page. They're not building a championship mentality there, and they need to look at a culture change.
Well, I'm the only one that got this right. So, obviously I like the Bengals. Hey, I mean, you're the one with the red X.
You did.
You're the one with the red X, baby. So, I picked the Bengals. I thought they were going to win this game. I've really liked them all year. I like the way that Joe plays. I think that he had that experience. And I think experience is a big factor here. I think that, Josh Allen, whether you want him to shoulder the blame or not, what you can say is that he's not done very well in the biggest moments. To me, that signifies a coaching issue. That signifies, like you said, a culture issue. It's the same reason the Cowboys can't get past the divisional round. It's the same reason we haven't seen the Bills very deep in the playoffs. They just can't get it done when they need to. Now, whether they need to blow that up, I don't know if that's the way to go. But like you said, there are a lot of great running backs hitting free agency this year. You got Saquon, who's looking for like a Christian McCaffrey type deal. I've seen that he's asking for $16 million a year. You got Josh Jacobs, who was very underutilized in Las Vegas. There are a ton of other really great backs. I think they can fix that. I think they can make another deep run. They hit the draft hard, get a good wide receiver too. Like you said, Gabe Davis is very inconsistent, but you get a wide receiver too, maybe another good tight end. I know Dawson Knox there is kind of good, but I'm not super sold on him. I don't think he's a top tight end. I don't think he's the guy that's going to get you over the hump. But I do think he's a serviceable receiving option. But I don't think the Bills are at that point where they need to blow everything up. Get rid of Allen or get rid of the coaching staff. But I do think they need to reorganize. Maybe look at why exactly are we failing each and every time when we get to these big stages.
Now, this is unsubstantiated, but I will say with Knox, I think there's an underlying thing of why Diggs got so pissed on the sideline. Knox had like 4 drops, and Allen gave him more looks than he did Diggs. And that, for a person like Diggs, is not that's not going to fly. If you have the perfect play for a tight end, then fine.
Right, and especially considering Diggs came from a situation in Minnesota that is very similar, where they have quarterback play that is good enough, but just not good enough to get them to the big game. And it's like that he encountered those same issues with playing in Minnesota. So I definitely understand his frustrations, but at the same time,
and that's not to say that
just the players on the field.
I'm not saying that the Bills lost this game. And make no mistake, like the Bengals won this game. Their defense lived in the backfield. They had great inside linebacker play, and they shut Diggs down. Not that he was ever throwing to him, but if he decided to, the corners were there. So the Bengals won this game, but it makes it look even worse when the Bills screwed. I mean, if you had a good game, then okay, but man. But that wasn't as big of a boat race as...
Well, before, I just want to bring up one thing, because I was thinking about what we were talking about. And I was thinking, because we were talking about drops, and so it made me think that, there was a lot of drops. And I remember that was a consistent thing all season, so I looked it up just now. The Buffalo Bills are tied for second with 3 different teams for the most drop passes on this season at 29. Number 1 was the Packers with 30. So I think, obviously and they were tied with the Buccaneers and the Jaguars. So I think obviously the Bills made it further than the rest of those teams, but that's a significant issue that, I think Josh Allen kind of mapped. So they're going to have to figure that out before they are going to have a legit chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can move on.
The biggest boat race of the weekend was Eagles-Giants. And I will just take my second of going, Danny Pocket Change showed up real hard and didn't do jack in that game. He looked every bit of a mediocre quarterback.
Eagles, baby. I picked the Eagles this week too. That was the team I'm really high on. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody's stopping them. I do think, as a team right now, they have very few holes. I don't really know how you would exploit that team offensively. I don't really know how you would exploit that team defensively. They have a phenomenal defensive line. They have very good linebackers. They have a great group of corners. They have a great group of DBs.
Leading the NFL in sacks.
They're disgusting. Amazing offensive line. Great quarterback play. Like, the only position I would say they could improve offensively is probably running back. I mean, when you're saying, we could get a little bit better running back, you don't have much to complain about. The Eagles are so good, man. And going into this game, I definitely did not think it would be a blowout like that, but man, they showed the difference. They showed, hey, there's levels to this. This isn't the same 9-7 Giants with Eli Manning. This is a different team, and we're going to knock the dog out of them.
Hey, don't disrespect the helmet catch.
No, that's what I'm saying. This Giants team is not that same 9-7 Giants team.
This Giants team won a lot of games. They won games that were significantly, they were powerful. They were close games, which is needed in the playoffs. So I'm not taking anything away. I think Saquon is extremely good. Like,
he was also a free agent this season.
Yeah, but I think he likes playing in New York, man. I think he goes back. I don't think he gets stank money, but it's probably like 90% of what CMC got.
They've already offered him $12 million a year, and he turned it down because he wants CMC money. He said that he's not looking to reset. He's not looking to be the highest paid one, but he wants that type. He wants like $16 million a year. So we'll see if they give it to him. And I also wanted to add that this Eagles, I will take the big old fat L. I thought the Giants were going to show up, and they absolutely did not. That Eagles defense is just too good. You already mentioned they're the sack leader, but I don't know if people realize how good they really are. They're the sack leader this season, but by like a significant margin.
Yeah, I think
they lead the league. They lead the league in sacks with 70. Second is Kansas City with 55.
Okay, 15. I was close.
Yeah, a 15. That's a huge. And then third is the Cowboys and the Patriots with 54. So, they are way and above the rest of the league as far as sacks, just because that defense is so good. And I'm with you. I think Saquon wants to play for the Giants. I think he signs there again. I think Daniel Jones is also a free agent, so we'll have to figure that out. But yeah,
maybe he can go to Chicago.
No, Chicago's good.
Daniel Jones specifically, the answer he gave when they asked if he planned on staying with New York, I could definitely see him leaving. I think Saquon will probably wait to see if he stays. But I think if Daniel Jones leaves, I don't think Saquon is going to stay. I think that Giants team might look a lot different next year if Daniel Jones decides to leave.
I'm with John, though. They didn't have big threats at wideout. Ingram ended up going down to the Jaguars this year. That was tough, and the tight end play was not good enough for me to even know who the tight end is over there. So
Bellinger.
See, when I hear Bellinger, I think of LA Dodgers. So that guy didn't make much of an impact. And I like Shepard. I've been pretty high on Shepard for a while, but they need some consistency at wide receiver to make a deep run. So it's not, I give Daniel Jones a hard time, but he's not been helped in the pass catching ability whatsoever, except for Saquon. Saquon can catch out of the backfield. He's really good. That's why I think he's the star of that offense for sure. But I'm like Nick, I think Saquon comes back. I think he likes the coaching staff. I think he likes the setup. But is Daniel Jones there next year? That's like a 60-40 to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the Giants team is going to do, but their biggest glaring hole is at wide receiver for sure. So even if they manage to keep Jones and Saquon, they're going to have to figure that out. Whether it's draft or, it's most likely going to be draft or trade. The free agents this year for wide receivers are, RBs are like really, really good. Wide receivers is not good at all.
And as far as they went, their draft picks, not to go get like a Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody like that is pretty much NFL ready. They can take 2 or 3 games, really get adjusted to the speed of the NFL, and then go be successful, especially with the lineage. Jesus. But them going so far in the playoffs, I don't know if they get a pick high enough unless they really give away a lot to trade up, and then that hurts you later on in the draft anyway.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure we'll do a whole episode just on the draft and what we think will happen in free agents and all that. But yeah, it's something they got to fix for sure.
Well, if we all want to have fun, we could just go to the draft and do it live there.
Might be something we
Only
do.
in Kansas City we could eat barbecue. I'm just saying. So yeah, the Eagles absolutely boat raced the Giants. Everybody that watched that game kind of knows that. And then going to, I felt the most fun team to watch in the playoffs was definitely the Jaguars. And then the craziness in the first quarter with Mahomes' injury, Henney coming in and leading a 90-yard drive, or like a 90, what was it, 95, 98 yards? I mean, it was disgusting. Which super props to Andy Reid for what he's done with a backup QB. But the Jaguars were a fun team to watch. Now they're eliminated; they lost 27-20, but I enjoyed watching those games more than I think the rest of them.
Oh yeah, I love this Jaguars team. I think they're one of my favorite teams, especially next year. It'll be one of my favorite teams to watch. I think what Doug Peterson has been able to do with this team since the mess that was left there from last season. I mean, they went from one of the worst teams to making the playoffs to, winning a playoff game, going to the divisional round. I mean, what he's been able to do, I think, is outstanding. I think the development of Trevor Lawrence, not only as a quarterback and as a passer, but as a leader, has been really great to watch. I mean, the video that went really, the viral video after the game was he walked up the tunnel and then he turned around and was just congratulating all those guys on a great season. That's just great leadership. And that's something that, you can try and teach, but that's something that he's got to buy into. And I think it's great to see that. And keep in mind, and we talked about it during the game, but, they've got some potential issues at wide receiver, but they get Calvin Ridley next year too. So, I mean, this team is only going to get better. I don't think they have any significant free agents that they got to worry about. So I'm very excited to see. Yeah, well, all right, yeah, Ingram. I think that's the only one though. So I'm very excited to watch this team next year. I think they'll make the playoffs again, and who knows, maybe they'll go farther this time.
Yeah, the Jags are really good this year. Obviously, didn't start that way. Started off pretty horribly. Okay, went on a huge tear towards the end of the season. Started looking really good towards the end of that. I also like the way Doug Peterson's turned not only this team but his career around. It's been really awesome to see him, leave Philadelphia. I don't think he was fired there. I think he left mutually when that happened. But either way, he was able to come to Jacksonville, especially after the mess that Urban Meyer left. Gross, disgusting person that is Urban Meyer. Was able to fix those situations and sort of start really instilling confidence in Trevor Lawrence. Now, I don't want to get too high on the Jags because, Blake Bortles did make them look really good one year, and then the next year they turned into the Jaguars again. But like you said, they are getting Calvin Ridley next year. I think that's a huge gift to them. I think that's a boon that they have waiting in the wings. A guy who's, in my opinion, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when he's healthy. Obviously, he played really well for the Falcons. He had that year he didn't play. But other than that, he was amazing when he was on the football field. He's a little bit older guy, stayed in college a little bit longer. But Calvin Ridley is going to be an amazing receiver for Trevor Lawrence. I see that offense getting better. As long as they're able to, retain some of their guys, get some good free agents, I think that team will definitely make a run for the playoffs next year as well.
Man, Lawrence to Bortles, come on now. Lawrence is.
Hey, you can't deny the fact that Blake Bortles looked like a world beater that year that they went to the divisional round. Or was it even the AFC Championship that they made it to?
Yeah, I think so.
They made a deep playoff run with Blake Bortles, and everybody was really high on Bortles that year, and the next year too. But then he became.
Yeah, because he got drafted a lot in fantasy, and Lord have mercy, did people regret that pick?
Yeah, just like Jonathan Taylor this year.
Woof! Got him! So, Chiefs take down Jaguars 27-20. Let us review. This is the conference championship games. Huge games. These are the four best teams over the season. I think that the playoff system worked. Got what we all wanted to see. So let's start with Eagles. 49ers, it's going to be in Philly. They're going to be ruckus. They're going to be loud. Probably colder than it is in San Francisco. Probably rainy. So what do we...
I think, well, let me just start by saying I think the Eagles win this one. As much as I like the 49ers, I'll also say I think both these games will be really good, and I think the spreads currently reflect just how close these games are. Right now, the Eagles are only 2.5 point favorites, which I expected it to be a little bit larger, honestly. Um, but I think this Eagles D is just going to be too much for Brock Purdy as a rookie to overcome. It's the best defense that he's played against. I think, like we've already said, he's going to get sacked at least 5 or 6 times. And I think that defense is just going to be too much for him to overcome, even with all of his weapons on offense. I think they'll keep it close. I don't know if they'll cover that spread, but it'll be close for sure. And I think, to me, the most fun matchup to watch is actually going to be not the Eagles defense, but the Niners defense against that Eagles offense, and seeing what Jalen Hurts is going to be able to do against that Niners defense. That honestly, after last week, I think these are probably the two best defenses in the league right now, right, in the playoffs especially. So I think this is going to be another game like that Dallas game last week, where whichever defense plays best, it's going to come down to turnovers, really. So whatever defense plays best gets the turnovers. I think that's the team that's going to win.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think whichever defense plays better is going to win. Sans the fact that I just look at the Eagles as like a way better version of the Cowboys. I mean, we saw Micah Parsons eat that offensive line alive. He was in the backfield all night. And like you said, the Eagles are 15 sacks ahead of the next closest team in the NFL. They are going to eat Purdy for lunch. And then offensively, I mean, the 49ers defense is good. I think this is their biggest test, though. 3 of their 4 losses this season were on the road. They're playing in Philadelphia. It's probably going to be cold. The Philly fans are going to show out. I just don't see this being all that close. I think it may be close the first quarter, maybe into the second, but I think once the Eagles start to pull away, it's going to be a 2 to 3 touchdown lead for them at the end of the game.
Wow. Whoa, big take. I am going to look at, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, but the 49ers defensive edge rusher, who he's been training with Palomalu, and he got shot out of a cannon the whole game against the Cowboys.
I know who you're talking about, but the funny thing is when you say that, I mean, you can, like, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, like, 49ers just have so many guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
He's the one with the longer hair. Got Palomalu hair. But he's going to look good, so they're going to run away from him. I think they're going to get Bosa, who was very... they ran away, but then Huifunga kind of, like, took over. They're going to run away from that, and Jalen is a better athlete to try to bait them into the wrong decision a couple of times. So that will make them stutter step come the second half.
Are you thinking of Talanoa Hufanga?
That one, yeah.
Yeah, he's a safety.
That guy, good Lord, he is fast, he is aggressive, he is physical, and I think they run away from him and challenge Bosa a little bit more. So I absolutely think that the Eagles win this game. But if they get down by 10 or more, if San Francisco just does something crazy and gets up, I've said it all season, Philly is not built as a comeback team. They're a play from ahead team, and it works for them because they're always ahead and they win games. So one blown coverage or something that gives them an edge. Maybe, but I do have the Eagles winning this game. I'm not going to go by 21 points. That seemed a little aggressive. But
I said 2-3 touchdown.
Okay, 18 points. If they've got Mark,
the over/under is set at 46.5. So are you guys taking the over or the under? Because I think I'm taking the under.
Yeah, the under for sure. Those two defenses will. Yeah, this will be like that 19-12. It's going to be one of those. But I think. Old buddy over there is going to smash that over with a 21-point victory. Good Lord.
I don't think the 49ers are going to score much. I mean, I think they may score 10 the whole game. That's what I'm saying is I think it's a low-scoring game. I think it's like a 21-10, 28-10 type of game. But I see it being like the Bengals versus the Bills. I think it's going to be a score like that.
Like a 27-10. Yeah.
I think that Purdy's Cinderella story is over. He's going to show that he's a rookie in this game. And it's not, I mean, he's very good. I'm not saying anything like that. But the Eagles are going to eat, and it's going to happen. The over under on 5 sacks, I would hit the over. So,
well, realistically, in my opinion, I think he looked pretty pedestrian against the Cowboys. I don't think he looked that great against the Cowboys. It's just that Dak played so much worse. Nobody's talking about it.
And the production came from Kittle. He just didn't get the touchdown. So I was wrong with the tutties.
The Cowboys Twitter is talking about how bad Dak was.
Man, I'd still just ruthless. Jeez. And then the game that everybody will talk about, and the biggest storyline completely is going to be, is Mahomes' ankle okay?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest factor going into this. I think the Bengals win either way. I just think they've been riding that wave. I think they're too hot. I think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. However, if Patrick Mahomes is unable to play, I think that Kansas City doesn't have a chance at all.
Yeah, I mean,
and if he's hindered by that ankle, I think it's going to cost them as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. I think he will play. I think there's no way that they're going to tell him he's not playing. I think he's made it very clear. I think it's a little foolish, honestly. I mean, a high ankle sprain is usually like a 3 or 4 week recovery time, and he's trying to turn around.
An ankle sprain is a torn ligament, so that is something to consider. When you get a high ankle sprain, you do tear things in your ankle. It's just that it's not something that they can repair surgically. However, right. That's still a very, very important injury, especially for a mobile quarterback like Patrick, who uses his legs a lot.
Yeah, and even in the rest of that game, he was hobbling the whole, and I was yelling at them like, "Dude, Henny got you there on the first drive. Rely on the defense, keep Henny serviceable, use a run game, whatever." And every play I was looking at, he was jumping up and down and everything, and I'm going, "You're just causing more damage. If you want him to play next week." Tua had the same injury when he was at Alabama, and they did a small orthoscopic procedure to try to repair a little bit, and he got back in 5 or 6 days. So I don't know if that's a thing. I know he walked out of the stadium, but that was definitely for show. I'm sure he's in a walking boot this week and is a red jersey. But
yeah, I'm like Nick. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm like Nick. If he's hindered at all, Bengals win. Bengals win big.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's a question of if he's going to be hindered at all. I think he's going to be. I mean, I just don't see how there's any way you can turn around in a week with a high ankle sprain and play. With the way he plays, I mean, we already talked about how he can run the ball and scramble to extend plays. He's not going to be able to do that. So I think the Bengals get more sacks than we've seen on him. I think him not being able to run around and extend plays or rush for any first downs makes him one-dimensional. So I think they're going to be able to key in on that. I think the run game is still going to be okay with Pacheco. He's a good enough talent to get it done. But really the key is he's not going to be able to extend those plays where, Kelsey gets open and, makes those big, just broken plays happen. And I think that's a big part of their offense, and I just don't see how it's going to happen. So I think, the injury is going to make him one-dimensional and easier to defend. I think, like we already said, this Bengals team is playing at an elite level right now, and I think they're going to continue to do that. So I would even agree with Nick that even if Mahomes was healthy, I think the Bengals would win. But the injury to Mahomes just makes it that much more sealed for me. So,
well, I'm not going to go as far enough to say that there's not some magical syringe somewhere.
Yeah, well,
you mean the same syringe they gave to what's his face when Justin Herbert finally got his start?
Yeah, for
Tyrod.
Yeah, for Tyrod Taylor.
For 4 hours, whatever. I'm not saying the NFL does anything like that. That's all hearsay. But
I don't think
making Mahomes one-dimensional, especially in that team. Henny was good, but Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Higgins, that other guy, and then Irwin and Hurst. Hurst came alive. Man, he's played great the last 5 or 6 games. So it's tough. Arrowhead will be rocking, and Mahomes is going to want to play, I know. But if he has just a 2% of a hobble, the Bengals are going to eat.
Yeah, I mean, the really interesting thing with this game, obviously, because of Mahomes' injury, has been kind of like watching the spreads and the lines. So, when the lines opened, the Chiefs are actually still 3-point favorites against the Bengals. And as the days have gone by, they are now 1-point underdogs, and in some places 2-point underdogs. And then the line's also at 47. Average like 47 points. So I honestly don't know about the over/under. I could see it going either way because I think it could still be a high-scoring game. But I mean, seeing the spread move from 3-point favorites to now they're 1-point underdogs at home tells you how serious the Mahomes injury really is. So
yeah, and I think the only way the Chiefs can get away from that is to get a defensive touchdown. The defense has to score some points, and Burrow doesn't make that many mistakes. He just don't do it.
one other little fun fact before we kind of wrap this up here is just wanted to point it out because I read this, thought it was interesting. But for the first time in almost 50 years, and this is from an article. This is from an article on Action Network. But for the first time in almost 50 years, two teams with 10-plus game winning streaks are playing in conference championships. The Bengals are on a 10-game win streak, and the 49ers are on a 12-game win streak. Thought that was interesting. First time in 50 years almost that that's happened. So,
another tidbit: this guaranteed that a Georgia player will win the Super Bowl, and they're in the lead 26 straight seasons. A Georgia player has been in or won the Super Bowl. Then the next one is Alabama and Ohio State are at 22 straight seasons. So there's at least one Georgia player on all four teams remaining, and a lot of the Twitter buzz has been they want to see LSU, Alabama with Hurts and Burrow back. And yes, Nick, we know he went to Oklahoma for a season. Calm down, but he graduated from Alabama.
He's not an Alabama quarterback. He's not an Alabama quarterback. Alabama cannot claim Jalen Hurts anymore. You lost that opportunity. When you chose Tua, you lost the opportunity. He is not an Alabama quarterback.
Technically, Joe Burrow graduated from Ohio State, so
Joe Burrow's an Ohio State quarterback. Yeah, you can't say those two different things.
Okay. Well, look, when I think of Joe Burrow, I think of 2019 LSU, and when I think of Jalen Hurts, I think of him coming in at the SEC championship and beating Georgia for the title. So that's where I'm at.
I think most people think of Oklahoma.
Who?
Because only SEC people would.
Oklahoma hasn't won anything.
I'm not gonna lie.
He probably went to the Rose Bowl, lost to Georgia, and then he ran away from a whole conference because they were coming to the SEC, and he went and then started losing to Tulane at USC.
I'm not gonna lie. When we started talking about this the other day, I actually forgot that Hurts went to Oklahoma.
See what I'm saying? It says everybody associates Jalen Hurts with Alabama.
No, Alabama fans associate Jalen Hurts with Alabama. SEC fans associate Jalen Hurts with Alabama. Anybody that watches like an extensive amount of college football would probably recognize him as the Oklahoma quarterback.
Well, glad we had that conversation.
I mean, if you check the NFL website, it says his college is Oklahoma. So.
Yeah, and it also says that what they did with Tua was correct, but God knows we all know that wasn't right. Just because something's on the internet doesn't make it true, Mr.
Yeah, but the difference is Tua is an Alabama quarterback, so there you go.
So, just to wrap this all up, who are we thinking for the Super Bowl now? Because personally, I'm thinking Bengals and Eagles, which I'm all about and looking forward to watching. So,
I mean, Bengals-Eagles was my pick before we even watched this round, so I'm sticking with them. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think I had the Chiefs going, but with his injury, that's the probability of them winning is just so low. But watching Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow duel it out, that's going to be a fun game. That's going to be a great game in Arizona. So the Super Bowl is in Glendale, guys. The conference championship games are going to be Sunday at 3 and at 6:30 Eastern. So grab some wings, grab some things that you can put in a cup that may or may not be an adult libation. Enjoy a few things because nothing is sponsored here, but if you do want to sponsor the Bropinions podcast, feel free to email at bropinions2009@gmail.com. Give us a holler. Nothing that we really enjoy at all in this podcast or nothing. So, full throttle. But thanks for listening, guys. It was a good hour. Thanks for jumping on the call, boys. Maybe we can work this into a 2 because I've actually looked forward to this most of the week. Small bit of music news. Panic at the Disco has ended the 18-year career yesterday, so a little bit of sadness for me. Pour one out for my homie. But we're going to go see them in Glasgow, which is actually on Gabby's birthday, so that'll be pretty fun. And
you are not we, as in the three of us. You and your family are.
Oh, so we're not family. Thanks. I thought this was
Well,
like Fast and the Furious.
Well, we didn't get invited to the Scotland trip, so.
Boo! You didn't. I asked you, and you were like, "No, I'm saving up for a wedding, man." You know. So, thanks again, guys.
Perfect.
Hopefully, it is easy to find us on Spotify. You've got us saved. If you haven't, just hit that subscribe button, and it will let you know when we upload new stuff. Maybe we can get to 2 episodes a week. That seems like a lot of fun. The draft is coming up. We can be talking about UFC, which Nick has been live tweeting, and I still don't know anything about it, and it's awesome. Other big events in sports coming up. Saturday night is going to be the Royal Rumble for any of the WWE fans out there. So that is always the official open to the road to WrestleMania. The Predators won last night. Go Preds. They are 4th in the Central Division. NHL is kicking up, and we'll look into that playoff, which to me is the second best playoff in sports behind the NFL playoffs that absolutely got it right with Bengals and Chiefs and Eagles and 49ers this weekend. And if you guys want us to talk about something, with the exception of curling, because no, then...
Whoa. Curling is actually very entertaining.
You can email John for curling inquiries at John.
Yeah, I'll answer your curling
about
questions.
curling at gmail.com.
My Golden Knights lost in overtime last night, so I'm sad about it.
Oh, man. Who were they playing?
New Jersey.
The Devils. Gross. But double overtime games, always fun with hockey. And then the draft will be at the end of April. That'll be in Kansas City. And the MLB starts reporting pitchers and catchers report in 17 days. So keep looking out, guys. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to you two for joining in today.
Absolutely.
Always glad to do it.
And we'll let everybody get back to work and have fun. Fam Jam, we are out.